Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in Parliament yesterday, our unelected Brexit Minister David Frost, the guy who was ennobled for negotiating the Brexit withdrawal agreement and now says it's a load of tosh and needs tearing up and starting again, was presenting his next master plan on this never getting Brexit done journey that people voted for in 2019. And in this video, I'd like to pick one or two small flaws in his cunning plan. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So this morning's headlines in the Daily Express first. They focus in on something a little bit different to the rest. I'll be talking about what the rest were talking about tomorrow. But they presented the headline, "Think again, EU, you must change course over deal." Then the article begins, Brussels triggered a fresh Brexit standoff yesterday after rejecting a plan to protect peace in Northern Ireland. Now, for those who don't know, David Frost has now come out and said it in Parliament. The withdrawal agreement that took 3 years to negotiate is no good and he wants to completely renegotiate it from scratch. The fact that he could say this at all, let alone in Parliament, means that this is also Boris Johnson's position. Naturally, the EU have told him to do one, and I can get into the reasons for that later if it hasn't already become obvious. But let's pick at that Express article first of all. 1. Brussels triggered a standoff? Did they? I mean, we have a deal that was agreed by both sides. The EU are getting on with implementing their end of the deal. The UK is the one that wants to throw the contract or international treaty in the bin. It's Brussels that's triggering the standoff? Really? How's that then? Like if I get a mortgage and 6 months in I decide that I like the house, yeah, the house is nice. What I don't really like is this mortgage deal. I think I'm paying too much. I can't just tell the bank that I'm tearing it up. I don't like this. This is not what I expected. Or do the Express think that this would be quite reasonable behaviour? Secondly, the bit about rejecting a plan to protect peace in Northern Ireland. What plan? Frost's plan is to spend more years renegotiating the withdrawal agreement. I mean, apart from the nonsense of negotiating a new withdrawal agreement after you've already withdrawn, what is the plan for the interim? So, let's say the EU had agreed, which would be utterly insane for those who don't realise just why it's obvious the EU would knock this back. They already tore their hair out having to deal with our amateur chimps for 3 years of nonsense. The last thing they want is several more years of nonsense. It was constantly like this. We want a unicorn. Unicorns don't exist. Right, could we have a unicorn then? No, we've been over this. They're not real. Okay, but we'd really like a unicorn. They don't want to do that again. But let's just say they agreed. What's the plan? What is the plan in the meantime? Because we've left the EU. What is the plan? Do we enter a new transition period? I didn't hear that as part of the plan. How is trade managed? There isn't a plan. Because let's be clear about this. Once again, if you have two different customs areas, you have a customs border between them where checks take place. And it's that simple. And it's not that that is normally the case. That is always the case. And not only is it that simple, but the government accept it completely. They ain't arguing against that. Take a holistic look at Brexit borders. Because that's the problem. If you look at the government, they try and focus you in on Britain to continental trade, Britain to Northern Irish trade, as if they're two different things. No, holistic look. So we chose to leave the EU's customs union. We chose that. On the same day, a customs border was set up between Britain and France. The government don't complain about this. And that customs border is way more restrictive than the one the protocol requires on our western border. It's also costing us way more trade than the protocol. We also have a customs border with the Netherlands, with Belgium, Denmark, with Norway, not even an EU member. Something that the Express seemed to be ignorant of. Earlier this week, they had an article pushing the idea that the EU was close to collapse. Again, because Eurosceptics in Norway were on the march or something. Norway's not in the EU, you dingbats. But anyway, the point is that we have all these customs borders that are costing us massive amounts of trade now, and the government don't bellyache about them. Even in the Netherlands, even when they were taking our sandwiches, they took our sandwiches. The government didn't moan at the EU for putting unnecessary barriers in the way. You know, they said, did you really have to do that? But there was no great bellyaching. They don't claim that they didn't expect it. You know, we had a minister this morning, I can't even remember who it was. Who was it now? I can't remember, some idiot. Saying, no one could have predicted that this deal wouldn't have worked out. You are? Loads of people predicted it. But anyway, the point is that the government are quite happy to accept that where we have trade flowing from Britain to another country, doesn't even have to be in the EU, that we need a customs border. No issues with that. No complaints about that. So what about Ireland? Now let's take Northern Ireland out of the picture for the moment. The Republic of Ireland. It's a different customs area. It's a different country. But it's a different customs area to Britain is the key thing. That means there has to be a customs border. Well, of course there does. The government accepts there's a customs border between Britain and France, Belgium, Norway, Netherlands and so on. So of course there has to be one between Britain and the Republic of Ireland. Government can't argue about that. If they don't argue about it for the other countries, why should they argue about it for the Republic of Ireland? So given that the government have no problem with that, the only issue is, where does that customs border go? You have two choices. Between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland, under normal circumstances, if politics weren't what it was, of course that would normally be the solution, as it's where the UK meets the EU to our west. Or second, you place it between Britain and Northern Ireland, keeping Northern Irish customs aligned with the rest of Ireland. We chose the second, for again what should be obvious reasons. We chose the second because the government knew that we cannot have checks taking place inside Ireland. That would be more than just a threat to the peace process. No way of agreeing to that. The vast majority of Ireland would not allow it. The vast majority of Britain, quite frankly, wouldn't want it. And the major powers in the Western world would absolutely not countenance it. Simple as that. The government know this, and Jacob Rees-Mogg aside, have never, as far as I know, even suggested that this should be the alternative. So when you consider the government's response to various aspects of Brexit, it is clear that they accept two things. One, that a customs border must exist where you have two different customs areas. They completely accept that. Otherwise, they'd be bellyaching just as much about the other customs borders. Secondly, they accept that you cannot have a customs border impeding the flow of goods inside Ireland. It's QED really, which gives the government two options. One, they implement the protocol that they agreed to because it provides the only framework that allows for those two different customs areas without setting aside the Good Friday Agreement. You know, we did have the backstop. They bellyached about the backstop. What did the backstop do? Kept us in the same customs area. So then there would have been unfettered access in both directions, no problem at all. No problem. But they didn't like that, so we have this. And for those who say the protocol breaches the Good Friday Agreement, because actually East-West matters just as much as North-South, well, I'm not a legal or a constitutional expert, but I will say this. Legal attempts to get senior judges to rule this way have failed. So although people do claim that the Good Friday Agreement is breached, and it is odd that the only people who seem to be doing this were the ones who were against the agreement in the first place. But although some claim this, they have failed to provide any evidence at all. There's been plenty of time for judicial reviews. You know, on urgent constitutional cases, they don't take that long. And all their attempts have drawn blanks. Secondly, if the government don't like that customs border up the Irish Sea, their option is that you join the EU's customs union and single market might as well. And it doesn't matter how many tantrums the UK government throws, the situation really is as simple as this. We either have the protocol or we're in the EU's customs area. That's it. Now, people do talk about eventual Irish reunification as if that's some third option. Well, that's the same as the protocol. It's actually exactly the same as the protocol. Actually, there's one difference between the actual protocol and Irish reunification, and it's that with the protocol, the UK government managed both sides of that customs border. If Ireland reunified, because it would become part of the EU, then it would be the EU policing their side of it and the UK policing our side of it, or Great Britain. But the customs border would still be there. So it's not materially different at all. So reunification is the same as the protocol. The only thing that changes is who polices the western side of that border. But the border's still there. And so because there are only two actual options, and the customs border is not satisfactory to anyone, with the possible exception of Sinn Féin and their supporters, there is only one course. We will rejoin the customs union. Maybe we will rejoin it in a simple way. Maybe we'll just get ourselves to the point where we go, this is ridiculous, we'll just rejoin the customs union. This was a terrible mistake. Maybe we will negotiate a bespoke customs union that is exactly the same word for word. You know, like the copy-pasted trade deals that Liz Truss keeps claiming are her own trade deals, instead of which is just actually photocopied EU ones. You know, like that. So we'll pretend to negotiate a bespoke customs union. Oh, totally unique. But it'll just be exactly the same. But we are going to rejoin. I mean, we're going to rejoin the whole shebang at some point because the world is moving towards models of closer harmonisation with neighbours not further away. All we've actually done by leaving the EU and making a proper arse of it is demonstrate to any countries that were in doubt that actually no, closer ties are the way forwards. But that's for the unspecified future. Much sooner we will be in the same customs area again because we have to be. But those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. I hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.